Hi, my name is Rusty Martis. I'm a retired Air Force Mustang and OEF veteran. I want to welcome you tonight to Veterans in Bars Getting Bourbons. Cheers, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, well, welcome to Veterans in Bars Getting Bourbon. My name is Rusty Martis. I'm here with my special guest, Mr. William Vestring. He was a unique story, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But before we sit down and talk, we always like to have a drink to do that. I mean, it's hard to have Veterans in Bars Getting Bourbon if we don't have any drink. So let's get a drink to get started with. So if you're not familiar with this part of the show, what I like to do is I like to choose a specific bourbon for my special guest. And of course tonight what I have chose is the remarkable and wonderful Elijah Craig small batch. So this is a 10 to 12 year old bourbon. It's copper. It's from the Heaven Hill Distillery, and got that copper kind of flavor, or excuse me, look to it, you know, a little bit different color to it. Has a good vanilla, orange zest, a little bit of a toffee taste to it, and have a dash of just mint that comes across when you consume it. It's obviously made from a charred barrel, and if you're familiar with bourbon, you know that it has to be a new charred barrel to be considered bourbon. Every bourbon is a whiskey, but not every whiskey is a bourbon. And that's that specific difference, is that charred barrel. And of course, it has to have a strong corn taste to it too, at least 51%. This one's a little bit heavier, but it's still very smooth, very sweet, and has that little bit of a cinnamon, and again, just a touch of a mint flavor to it. So I chose this one. If you're familiar with the story of Elijah Craig, this part just I think is really fascinating. Elijah Craig is, by many people, is considered the founder of bourbon, because by a lot of, we'll say tall tales, he was the first one to use that charred barrel for the first time. See, he was a moonshiner. But what's also interesting about Elijah Craig is he was also a reverend. And what's interesting is he was a Baptist reverend that was running moonshine. So it's kind of a unique experience. And he was a pioneer. And that's one of the reasons that I chose this for you, is because you were kind of a pioneer in your own right, being the very first intern. You and Allie, obviously, as part of TVCA. So I thought this would be a great one for us to experience together. Now, as I mentioned, this comes from the Heaven Hill Distillery. It just so happens I have Heaven Hill glasses for that. And because this is not your first rodeo with bourbon, I don't know if you've ever had Elijah Craig before.
I have not.
Oh, you're going to enjoy this. Again, 10 to 12 year age, wonderful, very smooth cinnamon, wood, nutmeg, just a touch of mint. I like to do this one. Just kind of on the rocks. Okay. So if you've traditionally, when you do it on the rocks with any bourbon, you should do it as a ball, a rock ball, and just so it keeps it cold but doesn't water it down a whole lot. And you don't want to water this down a whole lot. And you always want to use distilled water when you're doing the bourbon. Using distilled water just doesn't affect the flavor of the bourbon. So we'll just pour this directly on the rocks here. All right, let's cheers, sir.
Cheers. Yep.
Pretty yummy, pretty yummy. All right, we'll be right back. Sit down and talk about your service and what you did with TVCA and what your future entails.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're here with our special guest, Will Vestring from TVCA, Tri-State Veterans Community Alliance. Will was one of our very first interns that we ever had at TVCA, and we're going to have him talk a little bit about his experience. But before we do that, we want to learn a little bit about your military time. So tell us, what branch of service were you in, and why did you choose that branch?
I was in the United States Army. I went to basic in Fort Jackson. I was a 92 Alpha, which is an automated logistical specialist. It's a fancy way of saying I worked in a warehouse. And my first duty station from there was in Korea. And Korea was an interesting experience. I kind of wish I would have stayed. An older me would have. After spending a little over a year in Korea, I moved on to Fort Campbell before injury put me out.
Are you okay to go kind of delve into that right now? Talk a little bit about what the injury was and how that happened.
In my case, through my entire life, I've had little bits of anxiety issues and whatnot. And after being in Campbell for a little bit, a lot of those just started to kind of culminate a little bit. But I was doing my best to readjust, because I had been overseas for over a year, so I was used to that, and I thought that I had everything pretty well handled. And then some family issues came up towards the end there. My stepmother, who had been around for the better part of a decade, passed away. My whole family was a wreck. In turn, I was a wreck, not more so for my family, and that started to affect my everyday performance.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
They caught wind of that and started discharge proceedings. Because I'm not going to sit here, I'm not going to lie about how I ended up out. It's not fantastic, but I'm at least being honest.
What and I appreciate you sharing that information with us. How did that impact kind of your transition out of the service? And
so, in the military, as many veterans will tell you, being in the military provides you with a sense of purpose, a sense of duty, and everything in the military is structured. When I got out, now bear in mind, there was a lot going on in that time period.
and what time period was that?
This was the end of 2006,
Gotcha.
About mid-November. My stepmother passed on November 15th, and when they finally... Because at the time, JAG actually gave me the option to fight the discharge. Mm-hmm. But my family was a mess, and I felt that I needed to be with them. So I went ahead and let the discharge go through. And I went home, and my sense of purpose... Initially, this is where it gets interesting. Initially, even getting out, I had a sense of purpose, take care of my family.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But when they started, moving forward with their lives, I found myself lost. I found myself not really knowing what to do with myself. I knew the military, I knew the structure, and all of a sudden, just like that, didn't have a structure anymore. And it caused me to become extra anxious. I thought that being in the military service, and a lot of veterans make this mistake. Mm-hmm. You're in the military for a while, and you think that you're going to get hired on just like that. Your experience is going to do amazing things for you. But the reality is, civilians don't quite understand military lingo. And when you get out of the service, you don't know how to translate that into civilian speak. And on top of that, civilians, when they hear military, they just think military. They don't always think about the specialty jobs you have. So I thought that I would be good to go, and I wasn't.
Right. And I think that's a great point. I think a lot of people expect that, and it's a harsh reality when they get out. I retired in 2014, and I thought the same thing. I got all this experience behind me. It's going to be easy to get a job, and I was lucky because I had retirement. At VA disability and some compensation there. Mm-hmm. I didn't need a $100,000 job. I just needed a little bit. And all the job offers I got were like in the 20,000 range and everything. I'm like, and that really affected me emotionally and the stability because I'm like, I just spent 24 years in the service. I have all these skill sets and nobody wants me. And it really did a big impact. So I think that's a great point. And it's not that we don't bring great skill sets, is that we don't do a good job explaining it to the civilian world. So I appreciate you bringing that up. That's a tremendously important topic to talk about later on. So how did you end up then going from what you did from the military experience to what you're doing now, because you're a licensed social worker in 2 states. So you have a success story that's huge.
I do have a success story now. Now, my story, and it's not just me, and for the longest time, a lot of veterans also have this mindset of, and every unique experience is unique, but everybody constantly thinks that nobody understands how I feel or what I've been through. Like for me, as Rusty pointed out, I am a licensed social worker at the bachelor's level in both Ohio and Kentucky, but it took a while to get there. I got out of the military. I spent about 1.5 years working as a Army contractor. I actually ended up in Georgia for a little bit. I was working on Fort Stewart for about 1.5 hours. Or 1.5 hours, wow. A year and a half.
Short time.
That's about how long it took me to drive there. Yeah. But about 1.5 years, I lived in Savannah, Georgia. I spent working on Fort Stewart. For most of it, I was spending it working in a warehouse, doing the same job I did in the military. I also did a little bit of security for there. But I was so scatterbrained. I didn't have a plan. I thought that, okay, just like the military. You get out of the military, you thought that you're good to go. It took me about 1 year to get that contracting job. And that's another thing. Contracting is term limited. Mm-hmm. So contract ends. I'm back to not knowing what to do. I thought that, once again, my experience would do me some good. But again, all it says is most people or most employers would see is you worked for the military, because military specialty, military lingo. Mm-hmm. And so I got out and I decided about 2000. I came back to Ohio late 2009. Worked with my dad for a little bit over at his auto repair shop. I worked in administrative because I don't have any real mechanical talent. So late 2010, I decided maybe I'll use that GI Bill. Maybe I'll go to school for a couple years. And first couple semesters, I did great. And then I didn't. I let myself get distracted. I let myself worry about everything else. My grades slipped, and next thing I know, I'm no longer in school, and I owe a bunch of money. And from there through, I would say 2013, I struggled to maintain a job. Sure, I worked with my dad for a little bit. But during that time period, I also fell into another issue. I fell into benzodiazepine dependency. I was the clonazepam. I've had anxiety issues my whole life, and I used that. First it was 1 milligram, then 2, then 4, then 8. And then it was 8 all the way up until 2015. During that time period, I did manage to get an associate's degree at Strayer University from 2013 to mid-2014. I got an associate's degree in business administration. But that medication led me to making a bunch of bad decisions. And I became so dependent on it that I started burning bridges, and I started allowing myself to be susceptible to many other things. And a lot of people don't understand or veterans do fall into this trap, and a lot of it is because they don't have any guidance. So they go to the first thing they can to help them feel better. And so I got my associate's degree, a lot of things, but sure, I got my degree.
Yeah, well, I think another great point is you're right, and as we talk through, either at the TVCA as we work through our clients or participants, and some of the struggles that they seem and do, and I always bring this up. I'm about every show, and I'm sure people are sick of me hearing about it, but it's purpose and passion, right? You have a purpose and passion when you're in. When you get out, it's a struggle to find that purpose and passion, and so you fall back into other types of things that either kind of help you suppress it or go into a different direction. And so, but what you did was you then found your calling, for lack of a better term, through Mount St. Joe. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So, to quickly put an end to the addiction story, 2015, I was driving my brother home one day. I was on the medication, and about had a head-on collision until he swerved me off the road. And once we got, and he took over driving, we got home, and once I passed out, woke up, and once I woke up, something clicked. Back of my head, I'm like, I could have ended both our lives there. Because my mindset at the time was, as long as I'm not hurting anybody, who cares if I'm hurting myself?
Right.
Till I realized I was hurting everybody else. So at that moment, I put the bottle down. I let my providers know that I'm done with this medication. And I made a bunch of different life changes. First, I was living in a bad situation. I sold the trailer I was living in, and I moved over to Delhi. I moved to Delhi, which is southwest Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where most of my family lives, and they were amazing in helping me get reestablished.
And that's another key point, is having that tribe, right? That community, that family, or other people that are there for you.
You know, I had burnt those bridges, and yet they were willing to help me rebuild those bridges, and that meant a lot to me. So I moved back to Delhi, and for the next year, I was dealing with benzodiazepine withdrawal. But during that time, I was seeing a social worker, a counselor, somebody that helped me get my head straight, helped me get through these issues that I was having. And come the beginning of 2017, at this point, I would say, for the lack of a better term, I had not only burned bridges, I had blown opportunities. Like after I got my associates, I went to NK, Northern Kentucky University for a bit, but thanks to my issues with the dependency, I squandered that, and that was through vocational rehabilitation. So at the beginning of 2017, nobody had to bring me on. Voc Rehab did not have to allow me to use those benefits because I had squandered those benefits. And my social worker helped me get the confidence to talk to vocational rehabilitation, who decided to take a chance on me, saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And they had me talk to Mount St. Joseph University. Again, based on my academic history, they did not have to give me another chance, but they did. And that's where everything just started coming together. I enrolled in the Bachelor's of Social Work program because after getting through all my issues and getting through the withdrawals, I wanted to help people with mental health and addiction issues. And for that first year at Mount St. Joseph, I learned as much as I can. I made it a point to be the best that I possibly could, not allowing myself to be distracted by my past, or not allowing myself to be distracted by everything else that's going on around me. I want to help people like people helped me.
All right, well, I really appreciate you sharing all that information and explaining that. And you know, we talk about this all the time. We talk about that purpose and passion. We talk about having a community and a tribe to support and be able to build up. And you talk a lot about just believing, and you had a social worker step up and just believe in you and got you connected to a university that made the most sense for you, in a program that worked for you. And through our partnership with that program, that's how you came to be involved with TDCA, which we'll talk about in just a second. But just talk a little bit about your experience at Mount St. Joe, why you went that direction with them. And also throw in there, because I know you helped lead also the Vestring group that's there as well. So I'll throw that back over to you to kind of talk through that.
So Mount St. Joseph was kind of what you would call a happy accident. And what I mean by that is I had a couple different people work for me. My social worker was helping me get through my withdrawals and get through my issues. The Voc Rehab counselor, who initially helped me through my associates, did not have to let me come back, but did. Mount St. Joseph, it's a smaller school. It was about 5 minutes from where I lived. And just like now Mount St. Joseph is a Catholic nonprofit I can't say nonprofit, but it's a Catholic university, private university, and they're very big on their image. But they decided to take a chance on me.
And I'll throw in there, because you don't like to brag on yourself, but you smoked it when you got there. I mean, you did awesome.
So when I got in there, my mindset was, okay, I have this social worker that's taking their chance on me. I have this voc rehab that's taking their chance on me. I have this university that's taking their chance on me. I better prove them right, because this, in my mindset, was this very well could be my last chance, at least as far as using veterans benefits to get through. I don't have a whole lot of money, so I made it a point to do well, and I did. In these especially in these social work classes, because a lot of those spoke to me, because it's not just about, it's social justice. It's enhancing one's ability to live. It's understanding the connections between human behavior and the social environment, which is very important for understanding the veteran transition process. And all of that just spoke to me, and I think that's how I knew I had made the right decision in my calling, because I was doing, I did very well.
All right, so you bring up a lot of great points, and I just want to do a shout out to Mount St. Joe, especially Amy Wolf, who's over there, and also Beverly Massey, Dr. Beverly Massey, who got us connected from the internship program as well. But what we believe to do in TVCA is not to be a competition to anybody, and collaborate. And so we have an education working group that gets together, and what they would do is they would work together to make the best fit for the student. Right. So there's no competition there. They just want to make sure that the veteran is successful in their educational goals. And even though that was a little bit different than your story, that's what really happened. It worked out because you found your fit at Mount St. Joe, which is really cool and amazing. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. We'll do a refresher of our drinks, and we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about what you did at Mount St. Joe with the Veteran Servant Organization, and how that all incorporated around TVCA. All right, cheers to everyone. All right, welcome back to Veterans and Bars, Getting Bourbon. I'm here with my special guest, William Vestring. And of course, we're having our Hebony Hill Elijah Craig small batch bourbon today. Very smooth, has that vanilla toffee, kind of that little bit of mint there at the end. Got, of course, that wood spice. Very, very good bourbon to drink on the rocks. Very smooth, as I said, just that touch of cinnamon. But we want to delve into more of what your role was at the Tri-State Veterans Community Alliance, because you're one of the pioneers, and why I chose Elijah Craig for you to start the internship program with TVCA. So talk to us a little bit about why you decided to come in and intern at TVCA.
So Beverly Massey made that connection with Tri-State Veterans Community Alliance, and we had a interview with them, and I must have done something right, because they were willing to bring me in. So I found out that, as Rusty mentioned earlier, Allie and I were the very first interns at Tri-State Veterans Community Alliance. I'm not sure if the topic had been brought up before. So we came in, and originally our jobs were, conducting, I remember if I recall correctly, the very first assignment you gave us was catching up with a bunch of follow-ups. At the time, there were only 2 veteran liaisons and over 1,000 client files that needed to be updated. So Allie and I worked really hard, probably for the next month or 2, making sure that everything was updated. And then we did a lot of projects.
Tremendously so, and I will tell you, they went in full force, and that's one of the great skill sets of bringing a veteran into your program. And now, granted, this is a non-paid internship program, and they worked their tails off to get everything squared away.
we did a lot of good at Tri-State Veterans Community Alliance.
I want to set the stage real quick here as you talk through this, because the reason this was such a great fit for TVCA, and if you don't know my background, I mean, you don't, I'm a teacher by trade, right? So I taught at UC when I retired, and I still teach at Thomas More College. So my belief in bringing in interns is to make sure that it's a viable asset for them, and it truly is a learning experience. So what we try to do is figure out the pros and the cons, help establish a stronger foundation from the pros, and then help bring up the cons so it becomes a pro. And so the assignments that we work through together was to enhance what you guys bring to the table, and also to put you out on a ledge a little bit, put you outside your comfort zone, and help you to accomplish that. And while supporting our military veterans and our partnerships, and because you delve into a lot of assignments and also a lot of what'd you call it? Not tasks, but projects that you had to do, and part of that was learning about all the partnerships that we have out there.
Well, I would say the most important thing was I learned that I am not alone in my transition struggles. There are a lot of people, when they get out of the military does not have the best transition process in the world. Something to keep in mind is a lot of people are trained, or everybody in the military is trained anywhere from 2 months to 2 years to integrate into the military way of life. And then, however long your service is, you can just get so used to that, and then most of the time you have maybe a week, 2, to transition out, and during that time you have to do your job as well.
Well, I'm going to stop you real quick, because I think this is a very important point, and I want to get back to what you learned. But the whole reason TVCA exists, and we are the first veteran in-processing center, because when you're in the military, when you go to base, you have an in-processing center, it's easy. Out-process is a totally different story, right? And so in-processing back to being a civilian is so key. And that's why we purposely named the Veteran in Processing Welcome Center, is so we can help you through that transitional period. So great point, and we see that every day, and not only in our jobs, but both of us went through that struggle as well. Yes. So let me jump back into teeing it up for you for what you learned through the TVCA. So great point.
I learned I learned how to empathize a lot better with other individuals, instead of feeling like that I'm doing everything, or I went through it, my experience was completely unique. There were other people that went through that, and I found a desire to help those individuals. And so at Tri-State Veterans Community Alliance, I learned quite a few things. Now, veteran liaison, technically, and Rusty has told me this over and over and over, we don't do casework. We are ultimately a referral agency. But I learned a lot of social work-based things there. I learned how to interview. I learned how to assess. I learned how to plan. I learned how to implement. I learned how to follow up. And these are all very important things in the world of social work. And during that time as well, I also learned the nature of nonprofit agencies.
I appreciate everything that you said and everything that you shared with us this evening, and some great advice. And I appreciate the shout out. If you are in need of any type of services, with TVCA, we're a connector, right? We're collaboration and connector. We can connect you to the right resources. You can do that by calling us at 513-844-6822, or you can find us on Facebook. We have 2 Facebook pages. It's the Tri-State VCA, Victor Charlie Alpha, or the Northern Kentucky Military Veteran Coalition, MVC. Or you can find us on the web at tristatevca.org. That's Tri-State Victor Charlie Alpha.org. We're here to help, and we will connect you to all the right resources. Well, I think we owe you a special cheers, Will. Thank you so much for everything that you do and all that you've put forth, and all your energy and effort that you and Allie and Katie have done. Tremendous success in everything, and you made our organization so much better, and we greatly appreciate that. So cheers to you. Cheers. Cheers, everyone.